because you have it right there, okay? But I will say this. He's always been there when our chapters needed anything. He was dead on it when I asked if he would speak in front of our community. He's a great man in his community. He is a state farmer, I will tell you that. But out of Chicago, he's led so much within the Chicago chapter through his community and also in the school system there as well. One other thing I will say that stood out. He and his wife celebrate 45 years together. They have published a book back in November of 2021 titled Love Touchdown, a Marriage Playbook. So if anybody knows the game and how to do it well, 45 years will tell you that. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up our guest speaker today. He's a friend of the 100. He is a 100 member. He is also our Central District Director, so we depend on him and report to him as well. Mr. Thomas Henderson, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be like a Baptist preacher. Good afternoon, everybody. One thing that I will defy the stereotype of the Baptist pastor is that I will not be before you long. I believe in being brief, but once again, I want to be able to say that I'm so proud to be here, and thanks to you, Jerome, again, for this particular invitation. It's refreshing for me also to see so many faces that I've been associated for a number of years with the State Farm family, men and women that I've known for a number of years, and I'm just glad to be here. So let me just start in terms of what I want to present to you today. On behalf of 100 Black Men of America, our chairman, Milton H. Jones, Jr., and its board, I'm excited to be here to celebrate with you the 20 years of vision, hard work, and commitment by the Central Illinois chapter. In my capacity as the Central District Director, I am afforded the opportunity to not only work with the Bloomington chapter, but with the presidents and its members from Alton, Chicago, Kansas City, St. Louis, Omaha, Tulsa, and Little Rock, Arkansas. Today, I'd like to spend a little time with you sharing the importance of the incredible impact of this chapter, along with many of the State Farm associates and the 100 Black Men of America have had in mentoring young Black youth. These organizations are to be recognized for providing guidance and support to young and Black and brown individuals, for which their efforts have truly made a difference in the lives of countless young people. You just got through hearing some of those stories. Some of the information has already been shared this afternoon and shown the perpetual impact that programs such as this one have enriched the lives of their students as well as their alums who have advanced to various careers spawned by the influence that these men have had on their lives. But before I go further, I want you to do a moment of personal reflection, and I'd like to be able to see your hands. How many of you can reflect on a mentor that you say that impacted your life at some point, professional or in your youth? There's almost not a single hand that is not raised. What does that mean? It simply means that a mentor has a major impact upon your life, so much so that they create a legacy that is able to be impactful to you, and you still remember them today because of many qualities that they possessed. I heard, and even probably was alluded, they probably didn't talk about the whips and the chains that they probably brought out to be able to keep people in line, but oftentimes that a mentor just needs to be present. Why is mentoring important? And exactly what is mentoring? Often people confuse a mentor and a role model. They're not the same. Christopher Williams wrote in an essay entitled, "The Purpose of the Black Role Model." He recounted having a conversation with a professor of his from the Dominican University in California, and it said that the definition of a role model is a person who someone admires and whose behavior they try to copy. Whereas a mentor is a person who gives a younger person or less experienced person help and advice over a period of time. Therefore, according to this definition, a role model doesn't have to be present or have any form of connection with you. You know what I mean. People have Michael Jordan as a role model. They've never met him. People have Oprah Winfrey as a role model. They've never met her. But the difference is that a mentor has to be engaged with someone. You've heard that term over and over again. What they see is what they'll be. The importance with a mentor is that the mentor steps out of the mirror and engages with the person whose life that they must impact. And so don't get it confused that just because someone is a role model, that they have any concern to positively impact your life. So why is mentoring so important, especially to black young boys? There are countless articles, and I will tell you testimonies and stories of being from Chicago myself, because you hear the news of what happens in Chicago right now. It's abysmal in terms of hearing how our youth are being negatively impacted, and the crime rate has just skyrocketed. But in an article that was published in January 3rd of 2020, it speaks of the premature deaths of young black males in the U.S. This article shared an outstanding or astounding statistic that homicides and suicides have increased at an alarming rate within that community. For black boys and men between ages 15 and 24, there is a staggering 81.7% homicide rate and 11.8% suicide rate out of a core of 100,000 individuals. Matthew Lynch, as he noted in 4 troubling truths about black boys in the education system, he said, number one, that black boys are more likely to be placed in special education classes. Number two, black boys are more likely to attend schools without the adequate resources to educate them. Number three, black boys are not reading at an adequate level. And number four, punishment for black boys is harsher in schools than any other demographic. This concept is reinforced by the notion that by simply decreasing the rates of incarceration for black boys and men, that could actually be a function of improving educational outcomes for black boys in America. Intervention into a young man's life between the ages of 8 and 18 is critical to the formula of success. As I listened to that young man, he said at age 10, someone stepped into his life. He's in that critical juncture of 8 to 18 where our black young boys are critically, negatively impacted because guess what? There are leaders in their community as well. I think that sometimes people think that gangs are not good producers of young men. They are. Gangs are great opportunities for families. It's just the fact that they produce the wrong type of outcomes associated for our black young men. Each member of the Central Illinois chapter has been affiliated, him or herself, within this 20-year span. And to Dr. Smith, let's applaud him once again for the vision. They have each been instrumental by instilling values that speak life, because there are enough detractors out here. You don't want to see them who don't want to see them succeed. As the saying was quoted by Theodore Roosevelt, People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. But what are some of the positive benefits that a youth gets from mentoring? One, they gain the expertise of their mentor. Two, they get immediate feedback. They begin to see the possibility of a path for professional and educational growth. I don't know who the mentor was for that young man, especially the one from New York, but look at the trajectory of his life. To have gone from a young man at 10 years of age, having the desire and the heart to want to be a computer programmer, and to now living out his dream in New York City, impacting through coding. And you know, coding can be done for good and it can be done for bad. But hopefully the impact that this young man has received in his life will be nothing but coding for the good. What else? They see the benefits of networking. I'm going to tell the young men that are in this room right now, never be afraid to look another person in the eye. When you stand and you meet anybody in the room, always think that you are just the equal to who they are. I tell people all the time, I would love to meet Barack Obama. But guess what? He puts on his pants the same way that I do. And so therefore, he's no different and no better than I am. So I want you young men, especially here, be proud of who you are. Be proud of the blackness of who you are. And always stand toe-to-toe, eye-to-eye, with a firm handshake. Is that right, gentlemen?
Yes.
Let's celebrate that. But there are also expectations of a mentor. Because being at such an impressionable age, they can spot whether or not you're genuine or you're in connection with them because you simply want to fulfill your resume or you want to do your community service. Well, what do they want? First of all, they want honesty. Don't ever lie to them. They'll see straight through you. Transparency. Share with them your personal journey. There are a lot of successful State Farm people in this room, as well as officers and other people that come from other professions. But a lot of times our society tells people that we just made it by our own bootstrings. But somebody had to buy the boots for you. Somebody had to help you tie the strings as well. So always know that they want to hear your story, your journey of how you came across as well. But most of all, they need dependability. Don't tell them that you'll be there and you don't show. A mentor will lose respect for you quicker than you would ever imagine if you don't depend upon those things where he can depend upon. The 100 Black Men of America is the largest mentoring organization dedicated to the mission of reaching our Black male youth population. The idea of the 100, if you didn't know it, was conceived back in 1963, especially during the tumultuous times of the civil rights movement in New York City, by a group of gentlemen, similar to like what we had here in Central Illinois, who felt the need to reach internally into their own community to create a movement that would impact thousands of lives of young boys and men. In 1986, that movement morphed into the 100 Black Men of America, which now consists over 106 chapters across not just the United States, but we have one in London, England, one in Turks and Caicos, and one in the Bahamas. Our core platform is mentoring. But amongst the other pillars that we have, this organization also depends upon education, health and wellness, economic empowerment, and leadership development. Our model, what they see is what they'll be, embodies the servant leadership approach, while it may appear that it reinforces the concept of the role model. It is when they want to be up close and personal that mirror image comes to life. Now that those young Black boys can stand taller and their countenance is uplifted, their stride is now the swag of a proud young man, and they have the confidence of a horse. John Crosby states, mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. Well-known celebrity Oprah Winfrey profoundly states that a mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside of yourself. I could not talk about the Central Illinois chapter without talking about the company that many of us are associated with, State Farm. It's one of the largest insurance companies in the United States and has not only excelled in business operations, but also has gone above and beyond to give back to its community. Through its various initiatives and partnerships, State Farm has shown a commitment to supporting young black youth and ensuring their success. Many of the men who comprise this chapter, you're still a part of the State Farm family, or you're enjoying those retirement dollars, aren't you? Whether through their State Farm African American History Challenge, this is one of the chapters that has had its share of championships, or its financial literacy programs, their championships. This concerted effort provides scholarships and grants to deserving students to help them alleviate some of the financial burdens associated with pursuing higher education, allowing black youth to focus on their studies and achieve their academic goals. Additionally, State Farm has actively involved in mentoring programs. The company understands that mentoring is a crucial role. But now, let's turn the attention back to the men and women that I came here to celebrate. The heroes, the people doing the grassroots, the work that it takes, that each mentor has to sacrifice that comes under their tutelage, that they give that student a fair and equitable opportunity for success. The greatest testament to these opportunities is when a former mentee stands at one of these events, or shown on the screen, tells their own story. You got choked up when you heard some of those stories. I can't tell their story. They can. You're impacted by their story because you heard their truth. They weren't paid. That was not an advertisement. That was a testimony in terms of the impact that the men and the women in this room have had on their lives. Most times, we think of legacy, and when we think of it in financial terms only. But it should best be described that the gift that you leave to others that can best impact the world when you're no longer here. Proverbs 29:18 declares, where there is no vision, the people perish. There was a vision back in 1963 that someone in 2023 would need a mentor to help him figure out the complexities of life. For 20 years, the men and the women of the Central Illinois chapter, you've done that. I know that sacrifice is not always recognized. You don't always get the pat on the back that you deserve. And definitely, there's no paycheck that comes along with this. I know that sacrifice is not always recognized, or neither should it be. But that's why it's called sacrifice. If it were done for any other reason, it would no longer be altruism. It would be narcissism. Continue. This is my charge to you. Continue to support this chapter. Not just through your presence, but through your dollars, through your time, through your commitment. Because our black boys, they are at risk. We hear that term all the time. Our youth are at risk. Yes, they are. And the political times that we live in are tumultuous as well, and is most times not favorable for the African American young black male. That's the reason why this time, people, is critical. In closing, I'd like to pay homage to a special individual, our recently deceased chairman, Thomas W. Deutsch, Jr., who passed away on February 15, 2023. I can personally say that our chairman embodied mentoring. He was a person that I met when I was an executive assistant here at State Farm. And he was a person that I met at that time, and I knew that there was something special about him. But even to his dying day, he mentored on his deathbed. That's when you know that you believe in the power of mentoring and the power of our youth. Thank you for allowing me to share some words with you. Thank you to this chapter. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for your vision. And thank you for each one of you all this afternoon. Thank you.